Howdy, and welcome to Broken Tool Garage. This week, I'm going to be going over painting plastic automotive parts, in specific, the dash out of my 85 Dodge Ramcharger. This video is going to cover how to clean all the dirt off, prep for paint, and final results. So I'm going to do something a little different here. First video, I'm going to try to do a difficulty level. So the difficulty level on this would be, if you can take a rattle can and spray rattle can and not get runs everywhere, you can do this, right? So skill level 1 or 1 star or whatever I decided to put up there, right? The time it's going to take, I'm going to say 3 tasty beverages to get it clean, 1 to do prep for paint, and then 1 for painting, unless you two-tone it, and then it'd be about 2, right? Because you got to go back and re-prep and paint. So 5 to 6 tasty beverages is the time required to get this done. All right, well, let's just get to it. Okay, I've already done 1 pass over here, starting to clean this plastic up. I don't think I'm quite facing you there. All right, so I've already got 1 pass done of cleaning the plastic up, and what I'm using is just some dish soap and water and my nail brush, wherever I put it, right here. And this will get in all these the textures, right? And you can see it's already getting dirty. Looks like I'm already getting some of that old stuff off. So I have a little bin here to clean my nail brush off with. See, look at that. That was all the crud I already got off there. So I'm going to do a round or 2 of this over everywhere where I'm going to paint. And once I get that done, looks like I got some stuff I'm going to have to get something more aggressive on there. Some sort of glued whatever has gotten put on there. Anything that don't really come up with a soapy water, I'll do the next stage of, I'll do paint thinner. It's pretty cheap. It's kind of the same idea as use something fairly cheap that you can clean up with. Paper towels at this point. When we get ready to paint, I'll show you some of the products I'll be using there. Then I'll start going to tack rags and, you know, the blue shop towels and all that stuff. But there's no need in using that stuff at this level because you're just going to waste a whole bunch of them and throw them away, right? All right, I am going to do the red Scotch-Brite. I can tell that it needs it. Now, the idea isn't to get sandpaper and take the texture out and make it smooth. But it does help get anything that you might have missed on there. It's a little harder. That'll take something different. But it gets the stuff that has the UV damage on it, the oxidized parts of that. It'll get that off so that whenever I go to paint, it has a good bond, right? But it's just kind of going over it. You don't have to do a whole lot. Just hit all the areas right quick. Now, some plastic can be in some pretty bad condition and where it's starting to crumble and everything. So you got to be careful with that. Luckily, I'm not getting too much crumbling on this other than my ashtray that I tore apart and trying to get it apart. It just started falling apart, but try that. We're in pretty good condition, including wire harness. A little bit of dirt right there. But you can use the red Scotch-Brite, and it doesn't really take material per se off, so, and it's not going to scratch it real bad or anything. So that'll leave a good finish once I go back over with soapy water again, get that cleaned off. All right, I've cleaned that. I've gone over both sides of this right here. So at this point it needs to kind of dry. It's taking a little bit because, well, it's 40 degrees and raining outside, so the water don't want to evaporate. I got about, I don't know, 55, 60 degrees in the shop right now. So that's the other thing, when you paint, you gotta get it as warm as you can. I'm doing this because the dash is already out. I'm already in the middle of doing other stuff on the Ramcharger. So, you know, you can look at a card if I can remember where they pop up at. and that'll show you the last thing I did on the Ramcharger over there. Now on lacquer thinner and plastic, you've got to be careful because some plastics don't like lacquer thinner. It'll, I think, soften it up, eat it. It doesn't get pretty on certain plastics. So if you have lacquer thinner and you want to use it, you might want to try a small piece, small area, something like that to make sure it's not hurting. I'm going to try to get that up with paint thinner, which I know is not going to hurt that, and just like a brass brush on there to try to get all that stuff out of that area right there. Okay, cleaning this up, brass brush and a little bit of paint thinner. Just going easy with it. And it is coming off pretty good. One of these things, you just got to keep working at it right there. Do a little bit more. Keep working it. The brass really isn't going to scratch the plastic, so that's why I'm using it. A steel, I think if I used a steel brush, it would scratch and gouge the plastic, and you'd see where this used to be. So we should be pretty good here without any scratches once we get done with it there. I'm going to go ahead and keep working that. If I see any other places, I think I got one over on the end over there, I'm going to do that as well. And then I'll probably come back and make sure I do one more scuff with the Scotch-Brite, one more soapy clean, because it looks like I got some areas there. Okay, now that we've got this scrubbed down really good, soapy watered, wiped down, we're ready to go ahead and start using our plastic cleaning stuff right here. So one of the things I like to use, and I'm out of it, but that's because I have this can here, is the Nason surface cleaner. You see the number there. If you're doing a small job, you can pick up a can of this. If you're going to be doing this regularly, like what I do, this one right here, the plastic cleaner, Super Prep, that right there will do really good. You can use it on, you know, metal, paint, primer, whatever. This is a good multi-surface cleaner. Same with this one. This is just in a smaller, just a different, I guess, form right here that it's in, and smaller amount. Okay, so I'm just about ready. I am going to do one final wipe with my paint thinner, and once I get that final wipe done, I'm going to go ahead and, I know we can't see it, but my vents and everything over on this side, I'm going to go ahead and tape those off, tape off my VIN number over here, and everything else that I don't want painted. That's after the paint thinner, and then we'll get into the super cleaner over there. All right, I'm getting this wiped down, and one of the things I like to do is just look at the rag and see what I'm pulling off of the surface, right? So I can flip this around, and once that dried, I can go back over it. You still see just a little bit on there. So I like to clean this good enough to where I'm not seeing anything come off. Usually right about there. I know it might be hard to see. That's what I'll stop with paint thinner once I get it to that level of clean. Then I'll change over to the Super Prep stuff. Okay, so if you're doing this, or if you've done this before, you probably noticed that all these little areas in the corners are hard to get. So I have a toothpick and my paint thinner, and that'll hold it a little bit. You can start getting these areas because it's at these little corners. This is where your cracks and peels and all that stuff will start, and then that can spread to the rest of it, right? So there's not a whole lot you can do on here to get that. This is kind of what you got to do here, and that's kind of the point of the nail brush, is to try to get a lot of that out. But these corners are just tough to do. So the other thing that I'm going to come back and do is take my rag, right, and then we can get us A little bit of layer there. Get this out of the way. And take that and kind of do the same thing to pick up all the dirt I just loosened, right? See how that's working? Just move it. Just keep going around. It's a tedious thing, but I mean that's kind of things that we do for our automobiles, right? Okay, I want to go over a few things on this side. So when you're doing something like this, if you're painting the exact same color, it's not as critical, but I'm going to do a color change. And what you see here is where the factory painted it, right? They stopped at a certain point. So that's something that you need to figure out, where do you really want to stop? What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I do this area up in here and just kind of dust down in here, because the bezel is going to be covered. I'm not going to be, even though it's a color change, I'm not going to be worried about trying to change all the color of everything down in here. That's going to be covered up, right? So that's something to think about. The other thing is, when you're taping this stuff up, there really isn't a right or wrong way to do it, as long as you're achieving the goal that you're setting out to accomplish. Some of the things that will help you out is like when we did this vent right here, if you take your fingernail and kind of go up against it, a lot of times you can get that tape to kind of curl up underneath it, so you have a good crisp edge. Got a little bit of my main tape there bugging me. And then just kind of do that all the way around. That'll help you out right there if you can get it tucked up under there. Those might come out. I just didn't really feel like fiddling with it and taking all the vents out and everything to try to get that to pop out. And this stuff, it's an 85 Ramcharger. This stuff is almost, what, 30 years old? 40 years old? Yeah, it breaks very easily, right? So that's also something to consider when you're doing this. Okay, at this stage, I am ready to go ahead and do my super prep on here, and then that'll be the final thing that I do. Well, not the final thing. I'm going to super prep it real good. And like I said, I'll look at the rag, make sure I'm not getting any dirt coming off there. Then I know it's clean. At that point, I'll take my tack rag and kind of go over it to make sure I don't have any lint from the rag, the blue rags I've been using. Usually I don't have any problem with that, but that's just a good extra measure on there, because the last thing you want to do is spend a bunch of time prepping everything and don't tack rag it and you get dirt in it, right? So once I do that, I'm going to be ready to paint. Okay, let's go over paints. First one, this is probably the #1 paint that you could use that's readily available. Right here is the SEM paint. Use this on my '89 Mustang. It's been several years, sprays very well. This is probably, like I said, your #1 that you can get. The other thing you can do, because SEM, they've significantly, say that again, they have significantly gone up in their prices, such to the point to where I think I would just go to the local paint store and get plastic paint, whatever color I wanted. Now, there are certain companies that sell these paints that are color matched to your dash. They already figured out all the color codes, and you can go about that. It's still going to be expensive. I would recommend going to a local paint store over getting some of those, because you're talking about $26 for a rattle can, essentially, for this stuff. Another thing that's very good on plastic is actually the trim restore. Now, you're going to be limited to the black color, but you can get it in matte, semi-gloss, and you can get it in gloss right there. So I like using this, is the TranStar. You can also use the SEM as well. The other thing that I found that works actually pretty stinking good is the Rust-Oleum Ultra cover. Actually, the bezel for the Ramcharger, I've painted that a number of years ago. It's still holding up fine, looks good, not flaking, nothing. It looks perfectly fine, like the day I sprayed it. These come in a satin color. This is Satin Canyon Black, one of my favorites. And you can also get it in Satin Granite, which I'm thinking about two-toning this dash here. I did the bezel in the Satin Granite, so I'm going to be doing at least most of this in the Canyon Black. What I like to do is figure out my line for two-toning. Whole nother topic there That's what I got to figure out. But I'm going to do the top part of this in a Satin Canyon Black and probably come down just a little bit, let it cure up, and then I'll figure out where I want my line to be at, and then go ahead and do the satin granite. But that's the kind of paints that you can use. This is what I would recommend would be, well, you could probably get away with this on the dash if you wanted it black. I could probably actually use I don't know if I want to use a semi-gloss or not. That might be a little too glossy. I'd have to play around with that. That's why I'm using this, because I know this comes out very nice. Okay, I'm going to do an adhesion test, make sure we're bonding good before I go ahead and start the two-tone. This is also good to make sure that you're bonding real good anyway. So I'm going to pick this area, this kind of an inconspicuous area. I'm going to put this tape on there. I'll mash it on really good. Then I'm going to peel it off. No paint come off. That's what you want to see right there. So I think this paint has cured enough to go ahead and put tape on, which I'll put it on lighter than that. That way if I do find one area that's a little wimpier or something, I'm still good. So I'm going to get this taped off right here, get all the black covered up. That way I can start the prep for painting, which I'm just going to do the same thing. Wipe it over with the super prep everywhere I'm going to put the gray paint, and then I'll tack rag it, shoot it, and then that's it, done. Once about an hour later, I'll peel all the tape off and we'll see what we get. All right, it's over there. It's painted. It looks good. A little backstory, the reason I have the dash out is because I've been doing a firewall resto on the Ramcharger. Had rod on the outside, rod on the inside. So I've been doing that. Okay, so let's take a peek at this. Now there's some things on it that need to be touched up and repaired. I can do that once it's inside, but take a look at that. You see a little bit of fuzz up in there, and that's because I didn't press the tape down all the way. That's one of the problems with not pressing down very firm with it. I didn't let my super prep cure quite good enough and evaporate off, so I have a little bit of a touch-up area right there. But overall, we're looking super, super good. Look at that line. So if you want to see more about the Ramcharger, you can look right over there for the playlist on everything I've been doing to it.